Hey guys, welcome back to Uncharted Mysteries, where we uncover the ancient secrets most history books refuse to explain. Now, imagine this, an ancient structure so massive it once dwarfed the Great Pyramids in complexity. Thousands of interconnected rooms. Endless corridors, underground chambers, hidden texts carved into stone walls. A place so intricate that ancient historians called it the most astonishing building ever created. And yet, today, you'll find no tour guides. No postcards. No spotlight in mainstream Egyptology. It's as if the structure was swallowed by time, or deliberately erased from history. Today, we're diving into the mystery of the lost labyrinth of Egypt. Herodotus wrote about it. Explorers in the 1800s tried to uncover it. Modern scans suggest it might still be there, buried under the sands near Hira. So why isn't this colossal wonder taught in school? And what secrets might still be hidden beneath the ground? Let's jump right into it. If we're going to explore the mystery of Egypt's lost labyrinth, we have to begin with the man who first introduced it to the Western world, Herodotus. Known today as the father of history, Herodotus was a Greek historian born around 484 BCE in Halicarnassus, in what is now modern-day Turkey. His monumental work, The Histories, is considered the first major attempt to systematically document human events, myths, cultures, and, most importantly, for us, first-hand accounts of strange places and wonders of the ancient world. Around 450 BCE, Herodotus traveled extensively throughout Egypt. He was fascinated by the grandeur of the pyramids, the sacred rites of the Egyptian priests, and the immense structures built long before his time. But among all the marvels he witnessed and recorded, one stood out as perhaps the most astonishing: the Egyptian labyrinth. According to Herodotus, this wasn't just a myth or a rumor passed down through stories. He claimed to have personally seen it. He described the structure in vivid detail, comparing it to the most famous architectural feats of his day and declaring it superior. In fact, he said plainly that the Egyptian labyrinth surpassed the pyramids. But what exactly did Herodotus see? His account describes a structure of immense complexity and staggering size. He wrote of 12 great courts, each perfectly aligned and connected, some oriented to the north, others to the south. The courts were surrounded by walls, and these in turn led into thousands of rooms and passageways. Herodotus claimed there were no fewer than 3,000 individual chambers inside the labyrinth, half above ground, half underground. The underground rooms, according to his Egyptian guides, were used to house sacred crocodiles and tombs of kings. Herodotus admitted that he wasn't allowed to enter the subterranean levels, but the priests assured him that the chambers were richly decorated with carvings and contained the bodies of powerful rulers from ancient times. The part of the labyrinth that Herodotus did see was equally astonishing. He described corridors and passages so intricate that visitors would become disoriented almost immediately. The walls and ceilings were covered with carvings, images of nature, scenes from history, and sacred texts. The ceilings, he noted, were made from massive slabs of stone, carefully joined without mortar, a technique seen in other Egyptian megastructures but rarely on this scale. The precision of the construction left Herodotus in awe. He claimed that the whole structure was roofed with stone, and that the walls were covered in detailed sculptures. Every part of the building, he said, was more impressive than the last. So, was Herodotus exaggerating? Critics have often pointed out that Herodotus sometimes blended fact with folklore. Some of his descriptions of exotic animals or faraway lands seem fantastical by modern standards. Yet, many of his claims, once dismissed, have been confirmed by archaeology centuries later. For example, his descriptions of Egyptian customs, mummification practices, and the building techniques of the pyramids have proven Remarkably accurate. And here's where the mystery deepens. Herodotus was not the only ancient writer to describe the labyrinth. About a century after Herodotus, the Greek geographer Strabo also visited Egypt. He described a massive structure near the ancient city of Crocodilopolis, close to the modern site of Hira. Strabo confirmed many of Herodotus' claims, noting the labyrinthine corridors and the bewildering complexity of the place. Unlike Herodotus, Strabo mentioned that much of the structure had already fallen into ruin by his time, yet enough remained to verify that the labyrinth was real. The Roman historian Pliny the Elder, writing in the 1st century CE, also discussed the labyrinth. He too placed it near Lake Moeris, today known as Birket Keren, and noted its vast chambers and courts. Pliny added that the building was designed to confuse anyone who entered without a guide, suggesting that it may have served not just a ceremonial function but also one of control, perhaps even secrecy. These multiple ancient accounts suggest that the labyrinth wasn't just a myth or symbolic metaphor, it was a real physical structure seen by several reputable witnesses over a span of centuries. But here's where things get strange. Despite the detailed descriptions, no visible trace of the labyrinth remains today, at least, not on the surface. The location identified by Herodotus, near the pyramid of Amenemhat III at Hira, has been heavily excavated over the years. Archaeologists in the 19th and early 20th centuries, including famed Egyptologist Flinders Petrie, found extensive ruins at the site, including large quantities of stone columns, walls, and fragments of architecture. Yet no complete layout matching Herodotus' description has been unearthed, leading some to question whether the labyrinth has been entirely destroyed, buried beneath the sands, or perhaps hidden beneath layers of debris and Nile sediment. Modern surveys using ground-penetrating radar and magnetometry have suggested that there are still large, unexplored underground structures near Hira, matching the dimensions described by Herodotus and others. Some scholars believe that what remains of the labyrinth is submerged beneath groundwater or concealed under centuries of natural sedimentation. So, what was the purpose of this mysterious structure? Was it a temple complex, as some Egyptologists claim? A ceremonial tomb for pharaohs? Or perhaps a hall of records, storing ancient knowledge and secrets long forgotten? Some fringe theorists suggest even more provocative ideas, that the labyrinth held pre-Diluvian knowledge, technological blueprints, or even artifacts from civilizations far older than dynastic Egypt. Others believe it was built to guard something, perhaps even to conceal truths that would rewrite human history. We may never know for certain. But one thing is clear, Herodotus' account of the Egyptian labyrinth remains one of the greatest unsolved mysteries of the ancient world. And if his descriptions are even partly accurate, then what lies beneath the sands of Hira could be far more important than any pyramid or tomb discovered so far. As we continue our journey into the lost labyrinth, let's explore the next chapter, what modern explorers have found, and what still remains hidden. Chapter 2, Other ancient sources confirm the labyrinth. Herodotus was not the only ancient writer to leave us tantalizing clues about Egypt's mysterious labyrinth. While his vivid account set the foundation for this enduring enigma, other respected historians, geographers, and scholars from antiquity also spoke of this incredible structure. Their testimonies, written centuries apart, paint a remarkably consistent picture, one that suggests the Egyptian labyrinth was not a legend or a literary flourish but a real architectural marvel whose ruins may still lie hidden beneath the sands of Hira. Let's begin with Strabo, the famed Greek geographer and philosopher. Born around 64 BCE, about 4 centuries after Herodotus, Strabo traveled widely across the known world, recording his observations in his monumental work, Geography. When he reached Egypt during the early years of Roman rule, he visited the same region Herodotus had described, the Fayum, near the site of modern Hoira. In his writings, Strabo echoed Herodotus' account, confirming the existence of a massive labyrinthine structure near the ancient city of Crocodilopolis, known today as Medinet El Fayum. He described a building of extraordinary complexity, filled with winding passageways, countless rooms, and grand courtyards. In fact, Strabo wrote that it was almost impossible to describe the place in words. Its intricacy was such that even the most seasoned guide could easily lose his way. Strabo's description of the labyrinth included large stone columns, vast enclosures, and an architectural style that seemed unlike anything else in Egypt. He noted that the construction was so grand, so extensive, that even though much of it had already collapsed or been dismantled by his time, enough remained to impress any visitor with its scale and design. But Strabo wasn't alone in documenting the labyrinth's existence. Pliny the Elder, writing in the 1st century CE, also referenced the Egyptian labyrinth in his encyclopedic work, Naturalis Historia, Natural History. Pliny called the labyrinth one of the world's greatest architectural wonders. He placed it near Lake Moeris, an ancient artificial lake near the modern Birket Keren, close to Hoira, matching Herodotus and Strabo's location. Pliny's account adds more details to the mystery. He described the labyrinth as a structure that combined temples, palaces, and tombs. According to Pliny, the building was not just a ceremonial site but also a repository of royal tombs. He mentioned that many kings were buried within the subterranean chambers of the labyrinth, hidden from the eyes of the living. Pliny also wrote that the labyrinth had once contained statues of gods and kings, inscribed columns, and roofed passageways built of enormous stone slabs, assembled so precisely that it was hard to believe human hands had created them. What's striking is that these three ancient sources, Herodotus, Strabo, and Pliny, agree on several key points. The labyrinth existed in the Fayum region of Egypt, near Hoira and the Pyramid of Amenemhat III. It was a colossal structure of complex design, with thousands of rooms, grand courtyards, and stone construction that defied simple explanation. The purpose of the labyrinth was tied to kingship, religious ceremonies, and possibly burial practices for royalty. Its construction was so advanced and so awe-inspiring that all three authors compared it to the pyramids, and, in some cases, claimed it surpassed them. With so much agreement across centuries, the question becomes, how could so many ancient sources describe the same incredible structure if it never existed? Some scholars argue that the labyrinth was an exaggerated account of a funerary complex, possibly based on the Temple and Pyramid of Amenemhat III at Hoira. Over time, the stories grew larger, the details more mythic. Others believe the structure did exist but was dismantled over the millennia, its stones repurposed for other buildings, leaving only fragments behind. However, dismissing these accounts as mere legend ignores one crucial point: the consistency of the descriptions. Herodotus, Strabo, and Pliny wrote in different eras, yet their accounts share core elements: the location, the scale, the layout, and the impossible-to-navigate interior. This suggests they were either drawing from a shared eyewitness tradition or that the labyrinth was still visible, in varying degrees of ruin, when they visited Egypt. In fact, even after Pliny's time, other ancient writers mentioned the labyrinth. The Roman geographer Pomponius Mela described it in the 1st century CE. The Christian bishop Eusebius, in the 3rd century, also referenced Egyptian labyrinths in his historical texts. These accounts, though briefer, kept the memory of the structure alive through the classical world. So where is it now? If the labyrinth was real, why haven't modern archaeologists found it intact? Part of the answer may lie in history itself. Egypt, over thousands of years, has undergone immense cycles of construction and destruction. Buildings were frequently stripped for materials, earthquakes, floods, and shifting Sands buried or obliterated many ancient sites. In the case of the labyrinth, there is evidence that during the Ptolemaic and Roman periods, parts of the structure were dismantled to build other monuments or towns. Some of its stone blocks, including columns and carved fragments, may still lie scattered around the Hoera site, but reassembling the original layout is almost impossible without detailed excavation. Furthermore, the 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻 region has been heavily affected by the rise and fall of the Nile's flood cycles. Over centuries, sediment and groundwater could have buried the remains of the labyrinth far beneath the current surface level. Some researchers believe large portions of the structure may still exist underground, waiting to be uncovered. In recent decades, modern technology has provided new tools to investigate the site. Ground-penetrating radar. Surveys conducted in the early 2000s by teams from Egypt and Belgium detected extensive underground anomalies beneath the Hoera Plateau. These findings suggest large rectangular patterns, possibly walls, chambers, or foundations, that could match the dimensions and descriptions of the ancient labyrinth. Despite these tantalizing clues, full-scale excavations have not yet been authorized. The site remains largely unexcavated, leaving the possibility that the labyrinth, or at least significant parts of it, are still hidden beneath the sands of Egypt. So, what do we make of this? Is the lost labyrinth of Egypt just a historical curiosity, an embellished legend passed down through time? Or is it one of the greatest architectural mysteries of the ancient world, waiting to be rediscovered? One thing is certain: when multiple independent sources from antiquity describe the same extraordinary structure in similar terms, we cannot dismiss it outright. The accounts of Herodotus, Strabo, and Pliny may be windows into a forgotten chapter of human history, one that challenges our understanding of ancient Egypt's capabilities and ambitions. As we move to the next chapter, we'll look at the modern search for the labyrinth and whether today's explorers are any closer to uncovering this buried marvel. If the labyrinth of Egypt truly existed, a sprawling structure of 3,000 rooms, grand courts, and secret burial chambers, then surely the sands of Egypt must still hold its remains. For centuries, explorers, archaeologists, and adventurers have searched for this lost marvel. And strangely enough, the evidence they've uncovered points to the same place the ancients described, Hoera, in the 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻 region. But if the clues are there, why haven't we seen headlines announcing the discovery of the lost labyrinth? Let's rewind to the 19th century, when modern archaeology was just beginning to take shape. Among the early pioneers was Sir William Matthew Flinders Petrie, one of the most respected Egyptologists of all time. In 1888, Petrie conducted extensive excavations at Hoera, just south of the Pyramid of Amenemhat III. It was here that Herodotus, Strabo, and Pliny all claimed the labyrinth once stood. Petrie's findings were intriguing. He uncovered massive foundation stones, vast rectangular blocks of limestone, spread across the area. According to his measurements, these foundations stretched over a considerable footprint, aligning with the descriptions of a large, complex structure. Petrie concluded that these remains likely represented the base of the ancient labyrinth. However, Petrie faced a problem. By the time he arrived, the upper portions of the structure were gone. Centuries of stone robbing had dismantled much of Egypt's ancient monuments, and the 𝐼𝐻𝐼𝐻 region was no exception. Locals had used the cut limestone blocks from ancient temples and palaces to build homes, mosques, and public buildings. The labyrinth, if it had once stood in its full grandeur, had been reduced to scattered remnants and buried foundations. Despite this, Petrie's findings were significant. His detailed notes and diagrams documented walls, chambers, and platforms that hinted at a massive complex far beyond a simple mortuary temple. Could this be what Herodotus saw? Was this the ruined shell of the labyrinth? As decades passed, other scholars and explorers took up the search. In the early 20th century, Egyptologists continued excavations at Hawara but made little new progress. World wars, political upheavals, and shifting academic focus stalled further exploration. The sands of time, quite literally, covered over the mystery once more. Then, in the 21st century, technology changed the game. In 2008, a joint Belgian-Egyptian expedition returned to Hawara armed with modern tools, most notably ground-penetrating radar and advanced geophysical survey equipment. The team, led by Dr. Louis de Cordier, set out to scan beneath the surface without disturbing the site. What they found stunned them. The scans revealed massive underground anomalies beneath the Hawara plateau. Large rectangular patterns appeared on the radar, suggesting walls, chambers, or subterranean corridors, just as the ancient writers had described. Some of these structures lay as deep as 12 meters, about 40 feet, below the surface. The size and shape of these formations closely matched the descriptions of the labyrinth from Herodotus and Strabo. Yet despite these incredible findings, the discovery received little attention in mainstream media. Why? The answer is complicated. First, the Egyptian authorities, concerned about looting, political instability, and the potential for misinterpreted sensational claims, restricted access to the site. Full-scale excavations were not permitted. While the radar images were shared in academic circles and at conferences, no major archaeological dig followed. Second, archaeology is often slow, cautious, and conservative, especially when dealing with controversial subjects. The notion of finding the Labyrinth of Egypt isn't just a simple excavation, it's a discovery that could rewrite parts of Egypt's history. Such claims require extraordinary evidence, and until the site is fully excavated, many scholars remain skeptical. There's also the question of preservation. Digging up ancient ruins can damage fragile structures, especially if they've been buried under sand and groundwater for thousands of years. Some archaeologists argue that leaving the labyrinth undisturbed, for now, may be the best way to protect it until we develop safer excavation methods. But this cautious approach leaves a frustrating mystery in place. Have we already found the labyrinth without fully realizing it? Let's consider the facts. The location matches. Hawara is the site consistently cited by Herodotus, Strabo, and Pliny. Petrie's work confirmed extensive ruins in the area. The radar scans match. The 2008 expedition revealed large underground structures, consistent with massive foundations, walls, and potential chambers. The historical context fits. Amenemhat III, the Middle Kingdom pharaoh associated with the pyramid at Hawara, was known for ambitious construction projects. Some Egyptologists believe the labyrinth was his mortuary temple or administrative center, explaining the proximity to his pyramid. The legends linger. Local oral traditions in the Fayum region still speak of vast underground passageways and hidden chambers beneath the sands. If all of this is true, why hasn't the world declared the mystery solved? Part of the problem is that the term labyrinth conjures images of elaborate mazes, mythical monsters, and Daedalian puzzles. But the Egyptian labyrinth, according to ancient accounts, wasn't a literal maze, it was a vast complex of interconnected rooms, courts, and corridors, possibly designed for administrative, religious, and funerary purposes. Its complexity may have inspired the Greek myth of the Cretan labyrinth, but the original structure was rooted in real architecture, not myth. So where does that leave us? We stand on the threshold of one of history's greatest unsolved puzzles. The ruins of the labyrinth may already have been found, lying just beneath the surface of Hawara. The ground-penetrating radar suggests that massive chambers and walls still await discovery. Yet, due to bureaucratic hurdles, funding issues, and concerns over Preservation, the next steps remain stalled. Could it be that the answers to this mystery are just a few meters below our feet? For now, the labyrinth of Egypt remains in limbo, half remembered, half buried, and fully captivating. As we move to the next chapter, we'll explore the theories about why this colossal structure was built in the first place. Was it merely an administrative hub? A temple? Or could it have held secrets that someone wanted to hide forever? Why would ancient Egyptians construct a colossal labyrinth, 3,000 rooms, 12 vast courts, subterranean chambers? The sheer size and complexity of the lost labyrinth of Egypt suggest that it was more than just a tomb or ceremonial temple. But if not merely a burial site, what purpose did this sprawling structure serve? Let's consider the mainstream view first. According to traditional Egyptology, structures like mortuary temples, pyramids, and administrative buildings served religious, funerary, and bureaucratic purposes. The Pyramid of Amenemhat III at Hawara was the king's tomb, and the nearby labyrinth may have been his mortuary temple. This aligns with Herodotus's account, where priests guided him through countless chambers, many containing royal sarcophagi. Some scholars believe the labyrinth was essentially a massive necropolis, a house of the dead, where pharaohs and nobles were laid to rest with elaborate rituals. But here's where things get intriguing. Many ancient sources describe the labyrinth not just as a funerary site but as a place of power, secrecy, and knowledge. Strabo, the Greek geographer, noted that the labyrinth's complex design made it nearly impossible to navigate without guidance. Pliny the Elder echoed similar sentiments, writing that the labyrinth was a place of awe, constructed with such intricacy that even the most skilled architects of his day could not replicate it. Could this mean the labyrinth wasn't just about honoring the dead, but about preserving something else? Some theorists propose that the labyrinth functioned as an ancient library or hall of records. In this view, the endless chambers may have contained scrolls, inscriptions, or artifacts documenting lost knowledge, possibly even wisdom from pre-dynastic times. Ancient Egypt, after all, revered the preservation of knowledge. The priests of Thoth, the god of wisdom, were said to keep detailed accounts of celestial cycles, medical procedures, and technological methods. Could the labyrinth have been the ultimate repository for such knowledge? This idea gains weight when you consider the religious significance of the Fayum region. The labyrinth wasn't just located in a random part of Egypt, it was near the sacred crocodile city of Crocodilopolis, modern-day Medinet al-Fayum. The crocodile god Sobek, worshipped here, was associated with fertility, the Nile's waters, and protection. Some speculate that the labyrinth, with its underground chambers, symbolized a metaphysical underworld, a gateway between life and death, earth and the afterlife. But there's another layer to this theory. Some esoteric traditions suggest that ancient Egypt was the inheritor of even older civilizations' knowledge. This idea traces back to accounts of Atlantis and other lost cultures that supposedly vanished after cataclysms such as floods or pole shifts. Plato's writings about Atlantis describe a highly advanced civilization that sank beneath the sea. According to certain interpretations, survivors of Atlantis may have carried their knowledge to Egypt, building monumental structures to preserve their wisdom. Could the labyrinth have been part of this inheritance? Supporters of the ancient library theory point to legends of hidden knowledge sealed away in sacred locations. The Egyptian priest Manetho, who lived during the 3rd century BCE, spoke of ancient records stored before the Great Flood. In the writings attributed to Hermes Trismegistus, believed by some to be a fusion of the Egyptian Thoth and the Greek Hermes, there are references to sacred tablets and hidden books buried in secret chambers for the sake of posterity. Perhaps the labyrinth was more than just stone walls and corridors. It may have been a vault for humanity's forgotten history. Then there's the theory of advanced technology. Proponents of this idea argue that ancient civilizations possessed knowledge far beyond what we attribute to them today. The precision of pyramid construction, the machining marks found in certain temples, and unexplained artifacts like the so-called Baghdad battery lead some to believe that ancient peoples had access to technologies we can't fully comprehend. Could the labyrinth have contained devices, energy systems, or scientific knowledge that modern science has yet to rediscover? Nikola Tesla himself speculated that ancient civilizations harnessed Earth's natural frequencies to generate power. If that were true, perhaps the labyrinth was not only a library but also an energy hub, a place where architecture and Earth resonance work together. The labyrinth's design, with its stone corridors and subterranean rooms, might have had acoustic or electromagnetic properties unknown to us today. There's also the possibility of astronomical alignment. Many ancient monuments, from the Great Pyramid to Stonehenge, are aligned with celestial bodies. Did the labyrinth have a cosmic function, perhaps mirroring the heavens or tracking planetary cycles? Some researchers suggest that Egyptian temples were often constructed as above, so below, representations of the stars. If the labyrinth followed this pattern, it may have served as a map of the cosmos, guiding the soul through the celestial realms after death. Of course, mainstream scholars remain cautious. They point out that there's little direct evidence of advanced technology or Atlantean connections. But that's part of the problem. Without full excavation of the labyrinth site, we simply don't know what's buried beneath Hoira. Why, then, has this enormous complex been left unexcavated? Some believe it's due to practical concerns, funding, preservation, and the challenges of digging in an area prone to flooding from the nearby Nile. But others speculate that there are deeper reasons. If the labyrinth does indeed hold records or artifacts that challenge established history, revealing them could cause massive academic and cultural upheaval. Imagine discovering scrolls that describe lost civilizations predating Egypt or technological blueprints from a time before recorded history. Such a find would force historians to rewrite the human timeline, a task not easily embraced by institutions built on conventional narratives. For now, the purpose of the labyrinth remains speculative. Was it a tomb? A temple? A cosmic observatory? A library of forgotten wisdom? Or perhaps it was all of these things, a multifaceted structure designed to serve religious, scientific, and cultural functions simultaneously. As we close this chapter, one question remains: if the labyrinth was designed to protect humanity's deepest secrets, did the builders succeed? After all, the structure has remained hidden, half lost in the sands, evading both time and truth seekers for millennia. In the next chapter, we'll explore modern efforts to unearth these secrets, and whether some knowledge was never meant to be found. When we think of ancient Egypt, most of us immediately picture the towering pyramids of Giza, the Great Pyramid of Khufu, the enigmatic Sphinx, and the nearby tomb complexes that have fascinated explorers for centuries. But what if there's more to Egypt's ancient landscape than just the pyramids? What if the lost labyrinth of Hoira wasn't an isolated monument, but part of a larger, interconnected system, one that linked the pyramids, temples, and possibly even hidden chambers beneath the sands? Let's begin with a simple but puzzling question: why would a civilization capable of building massive pyramids also construct a labyrinth so vast that ancient historians said it surpassed the pyramids themselves? Herodotus claimed the labyrinth was beyond description. Strabo described its stone roofs and endless passageways. Pliny the Elder called it the grandest work ever seen. Yet, despite the grandeur of the pyramids, these ancient authors consistently placed the labyrinth on an even higher pedestal. This raises an intriguing possibility: the labyrinth wasn't just a separate monument, it may have served a purpose that complemented or even exceeded the symbolic role of the pyramids. Consider the historical context. The labyrinth is believed to have been built during the reign of Amenemhat III, the sixth pharaoh of Egypt's 12th dynasty, around 1800 BCE. This was long after the Great Pyramid was constructed. During Egypt's Middle Kingdom, Amenemhat III's pyramid, often called the Black Pyramid, was built at Hawara, right beside the labyrinth. Some Egyptologists believe that the labyrinth was originally designed as the mortuary temple for this pyramid. But if that's all it was, a mortuary temple, why the immense scale? No other pyramid complex has anything like it. Could Amenemhat III have been attempting to outdo his pyramid-building predecessors, creating a structure that would secure his legacy for eternity? Or was the labyrinth part of a much older tradition, perhaps connected to sacred landscapes and hidden knowledge dating back to the Old Kingdom or even before? Let's take a closer look at the layout of Egypt's ancient monuments. Many researchers believe the positioning of the pyramids, temples, and ceremonial structures was no accident. The Giza Plateau, for example, aligns closely with Orion's belt and other celestial patterns. Some scholars think the three pyramids were deliberately placed to mirror the stars, a cosmic message in stone. Could the labyrinth have played a similar role? Some theorists suggest that Egypt's sacred architecture formed a network of ritual sites connected by underground chambers, hidden passages, and geomantic alignments. The labyrinth at Hawara, the pyramids at Giza, the temples at Abydos, and other monuments may have been part of a broader spiritual map, a kind of terrestrial mirror of the heavens. In this view, the labyrinth wasn't just a physical structure but a metaphysical one, a symbolic underworld that balanced the pyramid's reach toward the sky. This idea finds support in certain ancient texts and traditions. The Book of the Two Ways, found in coffin texts from Egypt's Middle Kingdom, describes a journey through the underworld filled with dangerous paths and sacred portals. Some believe the labyrinth was a real-world representation of this journey, a place where initiates, priests, or pharaohs would symbolically die and be reborn, navigating through darkness to reach enlightenment. If that's true, then the labyrinth wasn't just related to the pyramids, it was their counterpart. While the pyramids reached toward the stars, the labyrinth reached into the earth, creating a balance between heaven and the underworld. But there's another, even more controversial theory. Some researchers propose that Egypt's pyramids hide secrets yet to be uncovered, hidden chambers, ancient records, or artifacts from pre-dynastic times. In the 1990s, the use of ground-penetrating radar beneath the Sphinx and parts of the Giza Plateau suggested the presence of unexplored cavities and tunnels. Speculation ran wild. Were these the Hall of Records mentioned in legends? Could they contain ancient scrolls or even technology from a lost civilization? Interestingly, some accounts claim that the labyrinth at Hawara was connected to Giza via underground passages. While mainstream archaeology finds this unlikely, the idea persists in fringe circles. If there really were subterranean links between Egypt's major monuments, the labyrinth could have been the entry point, or the terminus, of an extensive network of hidden knowledge. The labyrinth may also have played a role in pyramid construction itself. Some theorists suggest that the detailed knowledge of acoustics, stone cutting, and earth energies required to build the pyramids was encoded into the labyrinth's design. In this scenario, the labyrinth functioned as both a temple and a school, a place where priests and engineers studied sacred geometry, cosmology, and advanced building techniques. There's also the question of preservation. Why did the labyrinth fall into ruin while the pyramids still stand? Some scholars point out that the labyrinth, being constructed primarily from limestone and mud brick, would have been more susceptible to erosion and looting. Over centuries, stone was often quarried from older monuments to build newer cities, especially during periods of political collapse. Yet, the idea that such a massive structure could vanish while the pyramids remain has led to speculation that perhaps the labyrinth was deliberately hidden, buried or destroyed to protect whatever secrets it contained. Could this explain why modern excavations have been so limited, despite evidence from radar scans showing structures beneath the sands of Hawara? In recent years, researchers and independent explorers have called for renewed investigation into Egypt's subterranean mysteries. The labyrinth, with its legendary complexity and connections to pyramid-building culture, remains at the center of this debate. Is it possible that beneath Egypt's surface lies an entire forgotten chapter of human history? As we ponder the connection between the labyrinth and the pyramids, one thing becomes clear: these ancient structures were not built in isolation. They were part of a cultural and spiritual landscape that spanned thousands of years, perhaps carrying forward knowledge from a time before written history. Whether the labyrinth was a ceremonial complex, an ancient library, or a passageway to hidden chambers under the pyramids, it holds a place in Egypt's puzzle that modern science has yet to solve. In the final chapter, we'll explore the mystery of why this structure has been ignored for so long, and what secrets may still lie beneath the shifting sands of Hawara. For a structure described by ancient historians as more wondrous than the Great Pyramid of Giza, the Egyptian labyrinth has curiously faded into obscurity. Despite multiple historical records, archaeological surveys, and modern-day ground-penetrating radar evidence suggesting that vast underground chambers still lie beneath Hawara's sands, the labyrinth is not part of mainstream education. It's rarely mentioned in history textbooks, documentaries, or even in guided tours of Egypt's ancient wonders. Why? Why do we learn about the pyramids and the Sphinx in every high school curriculum, yet almost no one outside of specialized academia has heard of the Labyrinth of Egypt? This question opens a deeper and more unsettling mystery: is the labyrinth's silence due to simple oversight, or is there an active effort, intentional or systemic, to keep it hidden? Let's start with the basics. Archaeology is often thought of as a science of discovery, where new findings are celebrated, published, and shared with the world. But in reality, it's also a science bound by bureaucracy, politics, and control over narratives. The story of human history is not just academic, it's a powerful tool that shapes cultural identity, national pride, and even political control. Changing the established timeline can threaten not only careers but entire belief systems. The labyrinth, if fully excavated, might force a rewrite of history. Consider this: Herodotus claimed the labyrinth surpassed the pyramids. Strabo, Pliny the Elder, and other ancient sources confirmed its existence and its location. In 1888, Sir Flinders Petrie found massive stone foundations near Hawara that matched descriptions of the labyrinth's ground-level ruins. In 2008, a Belgian-Egyptian expedition led by Louis de Cordier used ground-penetrating radar and discovered massive subterranean structures beneath the sand, precisely where the ancient texts said they would be. And yet, nothing happened. The 2008 findings were quietly archived. No large-scale excavation followed. No new documentaries were produced. No mainstream museum exhibitions updated their timelines. Despite the tantalizing radar scans showing extensive stone architecture under the ground, Egypt's Supreme Council of Antiquities chose not to proceed. This raises an obvious question: why? One explanation is conservation. Egypt's antiquities authorities often argue that digging into fragile ancient sites can cause irreparable damage. Given the delicate nature of underground chambers, particularly ones filled with potential hieroglyphs, art, or organic remains, there's a risk of collapse, exposure to moisture, or theft once a site is opened. Excavations are expensive, time-consuming, and politically sensitive. But does this fully explain the silence around the labyrinth? Many researchers believe there's more to the story. Some suggest that powerful academic and governmental institutions actively avoid re-examining sites that might contradict the established historical narrative. If the labyrinth were proven to be as vast and complex as ancient texts describe, and if it contained writings or artifacts pointing to forgotten civilizations, antediluvian knowledge, or technological abilities unknown to modern Egyptology, the implications would be earth-shattering. Such a discovery could undermine the conventional timeline of human civilization, challenge the theory that Egypt's dynastic culture emerged suddenly around 3000 BCE with no precursors, provide evidence of a lost civilization that predates recorded history. That's not just inconvenient, that's revolutionary. And revolutions in archaeology tend to be resisted fiercely. There's also the matter of control. In Egypt, archaeological discoveries are closely tied to national identity and tourism. The pyramids, the Sphinx, and the tomb of Tutankhamun are familiar and safe, marketable symbols of Egyptian grandeur. But the labyrinth? Its implications are murkier. If the labyrinth contained knowledge linking Egypt to a global, prehistoric civilization, or if it revealed secrets that connect Egyptian culture to Atlantis myths, ancient energy systems, or forgotten technologies, then the official narrative becomes difficult to maintain. Let's not forget that political instability often influences what gets excavated. Egypt has experienced significant turmoil over the past 2 decades. Revolutionary protests, changes in government, and regional conflicts have led to shifts in priorities. Digging up a labyrinth that might change the world's understanding of history is not a politically neutral act, it's a geopolitical one. Another layer of complexity involves academic gatekeeping. In the world of Egyptology, careers are built on defending existing interpretations. Challenging the accepted timeline risks alienating donors, universities, and fellow scholars. Those who propose radical new ideas are often marginalized, regardless of the evidence. Consider the case of 𝐔𝐬𝐻𝐻, the former head of Egypt's antiquities. While Hawass has been a charismatic promoter of Egyptian heritage, he has also been criticized for tightly controlling access to digs and for dismissing alternative theories, sometimes without fully investigating them. Could the lack of excavation at Hawara be part of this pattern? Then there's the question of hidden knowledge. Ancient texts, from the writings of Plato to the Hermetic traditions, speak of sacred knowledge that was hidden away during times of catastrophe to protect it from misuse. Some speculate that the labyrinth may have served as a repository for this information, sacred texts, advanced mathematical knowledge, astronomical data, or even blueprints for technologies now lost. If the labyrinth truly housed such records, would modern authorities allow that information to come to light? Or would it be quietly suppressed to avoid social, religious, or political upheaval? There's precedent for this kind of suppression. Throughout history, knowledge has been controlled by priesthoods, secret societies, and state powers. The Library of Alexandria was burned. The Dead Sea Scrolls were hidden for millennia. Ancient texts in the Vatican archives remain sealed from public view to this day. Could the labyrinth's silence be part of the same pattern? To this day, visitors to Hawara see little more than scattered stones and crumbling mud-brick ruins. The sand still covers what radar suggests is a vast underground complex. No official excavation is planned. No public report has been released following the 2008 findings. And so, the labyrinth remains not only physically buried, but buried in silence. In the end, we're left with a haunting question: is the labyrinth lost because we can't find it, or because some people don't want us to? As with so many ancient mysteries, the truth may lie just beneath the surface, waiting for those brave enough to dig. When we consider the mystery of the lost labyrinth of Egypt, one idea keeps resurfacing: not just in fringe circles, but in whispers among curious scholars and independent researchers. What if the labyrinth wasn't built by humans alone? Could it be a relic not just of Egypt's forgotten past but of something older, something pre-human or extraterrestrial? This may sound like science fiction, but let's examine why this theory persists. The descriptions of the labyrinth from ancient sources are staggering. Herodotus wrote of 3,000 rooms, some above ground, others beneath. He spoke of walls covered in carvings, intricate stonework beyond the capabilities of his era. Strabo described the structure as impossible to describe in words. Pliny the Elder suggested it was a monument of unimaginable complexity. Even by today's standards, creating such a vast network of chambers, many of them underground, would be a monumental engineering feat. So who built it? Mainstream Egyptology credits Amenemhat III of the 12th dynasty, around 1800 BCE, with constructing a labyrinth at Hira. But this explanation raises problems. For one, the 12th dynasty is not known for projects on the scale of the labyrinth. Second, the descriptions from ancient texts imply a structure far larger and more complex than anything confirmed by traditional archaeology. Could these accounts be exaggerations? Perhaps. But what if they aren't? This is where the theories of ancient advanced civilizations, or even ancient extraterrestrial involvement, begin to enter the conversation. Let's start with the idea of lost civilizations. Plato wrote of Atlantis, a technologically advanced society that perished in a global cataclysm. The idea of a pre-flood, antediluvian, world filled with advanced knowledge is not limited to Atlantis. Cultures around the world speak of a golden age before a great disaster, whether it's the biblical flood, the Sumerian stories of 𝐔𝐬𝐽𝐿, or the Vedic tales of world-ending deluges. Could the labyrinth be a remnant of this forgotten epoch? Some researchers believe so. They suggest that the labyrinth was not built merely as a tomb or temple but as a massive repository, a library of ancient knowledge, stored safely beneath the earth to protect it from catastrophe. Perhaps it contains scrolls, tablets, or coded messages left by a civilization far older than dynastic Egypt. But who were these people? One theory is that the labyrinth builders were survivors of Atlantis. According to this hypothesis, after Atlantis sank beneath the waves, whether due to natural disaster, war, or technological hubris, its sages and engineers fled to other parts of the world, bringing their knowledge with them. Egypt, being geographically close to the suspected location of Atlantis in the Atlantic or Mediterranean, would have been a natural refuge. In this scenario, the labyrinth becomes not just an Egyptian monument but a collaboration between native cultures and Atlantean refugees, a place where ancient wisdom was stored, encoded into architecture, and concealed from future generations who might misuse it. Another, even more controversial theory suggests extraterrestrial involvement. Proponents of the ancient alien hypothesis argue that the architectural feats of the ancient world, pyramids, megalithic sites like Baalbek, and precision-cut stone structures, are too advanced to have been created with the tools and knowledge we attribute to ancient peoples. The labyrinth, with its massive scale, subterranean complexity, and enigmatic purpose, fits into this pattern. Some claim the Anunnaki, the sky beings of Sumerian mythology, were not gods but advanced beings, perhaps from another planet, who interacted with early humans. Could the labyrinth have been part of their legacy? Was it built as a repository of hybrid knowledge, combining terrestrial and off-world sciences? Supporters of this idea point to legends of Thoth, the Egyptian god of wisdom, who is sometimes described as coming from the other world. Thoth was said to have possessed a tablet of secret knowledge, the so-called emerald tablets, which contained the mysteries of alchemy, the stars, and the universe itself. Some texts suggest These tablets were hidden beneath the sands of Egypt in a secret chamber. Could the labyrinth have been this hiding place? Then there's the curious connection to Lemuria, a hypothesized lost continent in the Indian and Pacific Oceans. In various mystical traditions, Lemuria was home to beings who had advanced psychic and technological abilities. Some speculate that remnants of Lemurian knowledge survived in Egypt, India, and other ancient cultures. Is it possible that the labyrinth is a Lemurian relic or was influenced by Lemurian teachings passed down through secret societies? Critics of these theories argue that there's no hard evidence, no spaceships in the sands, no Atlantean DNA tests, no definitive artifacts linking Egypt to otherworldly visitors. But proponents counter that the absence of evidence is not evidence of absence, especially when powerful institutions control access to digs, archives, and ancient sites. In 2008, when the Belgian-Egyptian expedition scanned the area around Hawara with ground-penetrating radar, they found massive anomalies beneath the sand. Rectangular formations consistent with chambers and walls. Yet to this day, those scans remain largely unpublished in mainstream academic circles. Why? Some theorists believe it's because what lies beneath Hawara challenges the accepted timeline of history. If the labyrinth contains records of pre-flood civilizations, advanced ancient technology, or evidence of contact with non-human intelligences, releasing this information would upend not just archaeology but religion, politics, and society itself. Imagine the implications if the labyrinth held maps of ancient Earth before the last ice age, records of technologies like sound levitation or energy manipulation, writings from beings who describe themselves as from the stars, proof of civilizations that predate the Sumerians by tens of thousands of years. Would humanity be ready for that? Some say no. They argue that the slow release of historical information is a form of social control. If we suddenly learned that everything we believed about our origins was incomplete, or intentionally obscured, the psychological impact could be destabilizing. For this reason, the theory goes, knowledge of the labyrinth's true contents is kept from the public. Of course, not all researchers believe in extraterrestrials or Atlantis, but even conservative scholars agree, there is something strange about the labyrinth. Why would so many ancient writers describe it in such detail if it were merely a myth? Why do modern scans reveal underground structures, yet no major excavation is planned? The mystery deepens because the labyrinth sits at the intersection of history, legend, and speculation. Whether it was built by human hands using forgotten technology, by survivors of a lost civilization, or with help from beings beyond our world, one thing is clear, it challenges everything we think we know about the past. And so, beneath the sands of Hawara, the labyrinth waits, silent, hidden, and perhaps still guarding the secrets of an ancient world far stranger than we can imagine. For centuries, the lost labyrinth of Egypt has remained an enigma, described in ancient texts, hinted at by explorers, and possibly even glimpsed through the sand by modern technology. Yet despite tantalizing clues, we still haven't fully rediscovered or excavated it. So, the question remains, could we find it today? And if so, why haven't we already? The tools now available to archaeologists and researchers are unlike anything Herodotus, Petrie, or early explorers could have imagined. Technologies like ground-penetrating radar, GPR, LiDAR scanning, and satellite imaging have revolutionized the way we uncover buried structures without disturbing the soil. In theory, the labyrinth's location, believed to be near Hawara in the Fayum region, could be mapped in extraordinary detail without lifting a single shovel. In fact, that process may have already begun. In 2008, the Madaha expedition, a collaboration between Belgian and Egyptian researchers, conducted GPR scans. near the site where Sir Flinders Petrie uncovered massive foundation stones in 1888. Their findings were shocking. Massive underground anomalies consistent with chambers and walls, arranged in a grid-like pattern. Some researchers described the layout as precisely matching the descriptions of the labyrinth from ancient accounts: multiple levels, vast corridors, and rooms concealed beneath the earth. But after the initial excitement, the findings were quietly set aside. The detailed results of the 2008 scans have not been widely publicized or officially followed up in major excavation projects. This has led to speculation: were the findings too controversial? Did they suggest something that mainstream academia or certain authorities weren't prepared to reveal? Some archaeologists argue that financial and logistical concerns are the real reason no further excavations have occurred. Digging up such a massive structure, especially one beneath waterlogged sands near a delicate archaeological zone, would require enormous resources. Preservation is also a concern. Removing sand from an underground complex that's been sealed for millennia could cause collapse or damage fragile artifacts. Yet others believe the roadblocks are not just technical, they are political and even ideological. Consider the implications of fully excavating the labyrinth. If researchers confirmed a structure as vast and mysterious as ancient texts describe, it could change the entire narrative of Egyptian history. It would challenge the accepted timeline of human development, forcing scholars to reconsider what early civilizations were capable of. The discovery of a massive underground complex rivaling the pyramids in complexity could lead to a cascade of difficult questions. Why was the labyrinth forgotten by mainstream history? Could it contain records of pre-dynastic civilizations, Atlantis, or other lost cultures? Might it house technologies or knowledge deliberately hidden from later generations? For some, these are dangerous questions. They threaten not just academic pride but also cultural and religious narratives that have shaped human identity for thousands of years. Governments and religious institutions have historically been cautious when it comes to discoveries that challenge official histories. In the case of Egypt, controlling its ancient heritage is also a matter of national pride and political sensitivity. Archaeological digs are often subject to strict oversight from the Egyptian Ministry of Antiquities, which prioritizes projects that align with accepted historical frameworks. Uncovering something that suggests non-Egyptian builders, pre-dynastic knowledge, or even evidence of contact with advanced civilizations could trigger controversy on a global scale. Then there's the issue of ownership. If the labyrinth contains artifacts, records, or technological relics from a forgotten civilization, who would control that information? Would it belong to Egypt alone? To humanity? Or would powerful nations and private interests rush to claim it? In today's world, where history is not just studied but weaponized for political and cultural leverage, this is no small matter. The rediscovery of the labyrinth might ignite debates about colonialism, cultural appropriation, and historical revisionism. Some fear that the labyrinth's secrets, if revealed, could be buried again, this time not by sand but by bureaucracy and geopolitics. Despite these concerns, there is hope. Independent researchers, citizen archaeologists, and alternative historians continue to advocate for transparent, open exploration of the labyrinth site. Advances in non-invasive technology like LiDAR, light detection and ranging, have made it possible to map underground and underwater structures in high resolution without disturbing them physically. This could allow for a detailed, three-dimensional reconstruction of what lies beneath Hawara, providing proof of the labyrinth's existence and layout without triggering the risks of full excavation. LiDAR has already been used successfully in other parts of the world to uncover lost civilizations. In Guatemala, for example, LiDAR scanning revealed over 60,000 previously unknown Mayan structures hidden beneath jungle canopy, cities, roads, and fortifications that had been completely forgotten. If the same technology were fully applied to Hoira, it could reveal the labyrinth's true extent. There's also growing interest from the global public. Documentaries, online forums, and YouTube channels dedicated to ancient mysteries have sparked a new wave of curiosity among people who want to know the truth about humanity's past. As this interest grows, public pressure may eventually push for more transparent and comprehensive investigations into sites like the Labyrinth. But what would happen if we did find it? If the Labyrinth is rediscovered in full, intact chambers, ancient texts, or perhaps unknown technologies, the history books would need rewriting. We would be forced to admit that ancient civilizations were far more advanced, both culturally and technologically, than we've previously believed. Such a discovery could redefine the origins of writing and record-keeping, prove that knowledge of sacred geometry, energy systems, or astronomical alignments existed long before modern science, provide insight into ancient religions, philosophies, and possibly even pre-human or non-human influences on civilization. More than that, the Labyrinth could answer some of the most profound questions about our species. Where did we come from? What have we forgotten? And could there be knowledge hidden beneath the earth that was sealed away, not to be forgotten, but to be found again when we were ready? In the end, the search for the Labyrinth is more than a quest for ancient stones, it's a quest for our own lost identity. The technology exists to find it. The will of the people is rising. The only question left is, will we be allowed to uncover the truth? Perhaps the Labyrinth is not just a monument of the past but a mirror of the present, reflecting our fears, our hopes, and our readiness to confront mysteries that challenge everything we think we know. So here we are, after thousands of years of whispers, writings, and wanderings, the lost labyrinth of Egypt remains elusive. We've followed the trail from Herodotus' poetic marveling to the ground-penetrating radars of the modern age. We've heard from ancient historians and modern explorers, seen diagrams drawn by 19th-century hands and digital scans flickering on 21st-century screens. And still, nothing stands above the sands. No grand stone halls, no endless corridors, no sacred tombs of kings. Just silence. And yet, there's something haunting about that silence. Because while the world above moves on, the world beneath may be waiting. Waiting for us to rediscover it. Waiting for us to decide, are we ready to confront what lies buried, not just in the desert, but in our collective past? Multiple ancient texts, Herodotus, Strabo, Pliny the Elder, all describe the same thing, a vast, impossible structure. A masterpiece of architecture and symbolism. They told of a labyrinth so large and complex it made even the Great Pyramids seem modest in comparison. So how do we explain that today, standing on the same ground, we see only dust and desert winds? Is it gone, lost to time and flood? Or is it buried, deliberately forgotten, erased from history by those who had something to hide, or something to protect? That's the question we leave with you. If the labyrinth is real, and it truly lies beneath the sands of Hoira, what might it hold? Ancient scrolls? Lost technologies? Records of civilizations erased by time, or perhaps by cataclysm? Could it contain answers to questions we haven't even thought to ask? Could it rewrite the origin story of humanity? And if so, why has no one been allowed to fully uncover it? Is it too dangerous? Too inconvenient? Too illuminating? We may never know, unless we demand to. That's why we want to hear from you. What do you believe? Is the Egyptian labyrinth just a legend grown large over time, or a monument to something far older, and far more advanced, than we've dared imagine? Should we dig deeper, literally and metaphorically? Let us know in the comments below. Share your thoughts, your theories, your questions. And if you're as fascinated by history's hidden layers as we are, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and tap that bell so you never miss another journey into the unknown. Because here on Uncharted Mysteries, we believe that history isn't just what's in the textbooks, it's what's been lost, buried, and waiting to be found. And maybe, just maybe, some doors were sealed not to hide the truth, but to protect us from it. Until next time, stay curious, and keep digging.